Hello, it's Saskia here at Little Bunny Bakers. Welcome to Let's Bake Apricot Flapjacks. I hope you had a lovely Easter. I did. It was full of chocolate. It was full of chocolate and family, my little daughter and my husband. And the three of us had a lovely day just being together. And one of the lovely things that we enjoy doing when we're together is baking. There's something really special about baking together, and whether it works or whether it's a more slightly interesting result, it doesn't matter because it's all about the process. So for today's baking, you are going to need 70 grams of oats, porridge oats, 20 grams of Rice Krispies, if you have them. That's an optional, but it does make it firm up a little bit. 25 grams of melted butter, 6 of these beauties. These are dried apricots. They're lovely for sweetness and flavour. Half of an apple and 1 banana. 1 banana. Do you see those little spotty bits? That's good. That means it has lots of lovely sugar in it. So if they have dotty brown bits, perfect. You will also need half a teaspoon of my favourite spice, cinnamon. So that's all we need. You might notice that there's no sugar, honey or golden syrup in this flapjack recipe. That's because we're going for a slightly healthier recipe to help us all with the healthiness of post-Easter chocolate eating. So there is no refined sugar in this recipe, which is nice. Okay, are you ready? Brilliant. Let's start with the Bunny Bakers song. Here we go. Welcome to Little Bunny Bakers. It's nice to see you here today. We're going to have a lot of fun baking. So come on, let's bake. Hooray! Well, Rosie Rabbit, my mascot, is here and she's very excited for these apricot flapjacks today. Are you excited? I am. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is we need to peel our banana. So we pull the top down, peel it down. Monkeys eat their bananas the other way up. So if you were a monkey, you would pinch the top and pull it down. So you can decide if you want to eat your banana like a monkey or like a bunny baker. You can choose. There we go. So we'll get rid of that peel. Using a fork and holding your banana steady with the other hand, you're going to push down on a plate to mash your banana. If you're a particularly little baker, grown-ups, if you slice the banana first, then it's a little bit easier for them to mash it. Oh, that looks good. Mash banana. Monkeys like bananas, don't they? We certainly like bananas here at the Burrow. Do you like bananas? There's a lovely sweetness to bananas. That's a really nice thing to add to recipes, and then you can reduce the sugar. And that's always good, isn't it? Less sugar is always good. So, oh, lovely and mashed. And then that banana can go into your mixing bowl. In it goes. There we go. Make sure all the bits are in. Lovely. So that's done. So we've got 1 mashed banana. The next thing we need to do is we need to slice our apricots. So I have 6 apricots here. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. 6 apricots. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to start by cutting each one in half. So to do this, I'm going to make a tunnel with my hand. Can you see that? A little bit like a rainbow. And I'd like to imagine that my knife is a train that goes through the tunnel like this. Can you see that? So I'm going to hold each apricot on the widest part And then I'm going to get my train and go through the tunnel and saw back and forth, keeping my knife flat to the chopping board, as flat as I can. There we go, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, they look like little trains actually, little parts of trains, which reminds me of a song about trains that we like, called Down at the Station. Do you know it? Down at the station, early in the morning, see the little puffer trains all in a row. Here comes the driver to start up the engines. Puff, puff, poof, poof, off we go. Puff, puff, poof, poof, off we go. It's a nice little one, that one. Right, so now we've cut our apricots in half using what I call the bridge technique. We're going to chop them in half again the other way. So again, your bridge, your tunnel, your rainbow goes over the apricot. Hold it steady and chop it in half. There we go. And we need to cut all of the apricot halves in half. I wonder, for my bigger bakers, how many quarters will we now have all together? If we started with 6 whole apricots and we cut each apricot in half, how many quarters will we now have all together? Can you work it out without counting them? Have a think. That's right, it's 24 quarters. So we're going to put those 24 little pieces into our mixing bowl, and on top of that we're going to get our apple. Now, apple is a lovely fruit to add to flapjack because it has a real sweetness, but it also has a bit of a chewiness, and it's really important when you're baking to think about how it will taste and how it will feel in your mouth, the texture. Both are equally important. Okay, so we've got a whole apple, but we only need half. What kind of cutting can we do? That's right, we can use the bridge technique again. So we put our hands over the apple, like a bridge, like a tunnel, and with our knife, with our train, we're going to go through the middle and chop it in half. Back and forward, pushing down. There we go. Oh, not quite an even half on my end. I'll just neaten that up a little bit. There we go. So we've got half of an apple, and at the moment it still has the bit where the pip was and the core, the pips and the core in the stem. So we want to chop it in half again using our bridge cut. And then we want to get rid of the middle bit. So for the little bakers, grown-ups, it might be easier if you do this, but bigger bakers, you can have a go and just holding it carefully on its side and cutting that core out, like so. It's a little bit fiddly. Woo! Flying pips at Burrow. Flying pips today. So we've got 2/4 of our apple. Now you can guess what's coming up. We're going to be cutting them again, and we're going to use our bridge cut again. So our hand goes over the apple lengthways, and we're going to chop that in half right down the middle. And the same for the other bit. So we now have how many pieces? Should we count them? 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's right, well done. So we're going to get each piece and pop it on its side, and with one hand we're going to hold it steady. This is called the claw. Looks a little bit like a claw with your hand, so you're just tucking your fingers in together and holding whatever you're cutting steady with the claw. The other hand is going to be your cutting, your train. So we're going to cut little slices, and as we get closer to our fingers, we're going to move them down a little bit so we don't chop them off. Always a good start to a day if you don't chop your fingers off, I always say. There we go. So like I say, you will find this easier if the apple is on its side. If you cut the apple when it's on its back, it does tend to move around and make it a little bit more tricky. So pop it on its side and you'll find it easier to cut it. There we go. Oh, lovely, look at that. Beautiful. So then we're going to scrape our apple into the bowl and we're done with the chopping board. So we can put that out of the way. I always say that a good cook is a tidy cook. So if you can, keep tidying up as you go. Make sure your space is clear so you have everything you need. Right, oh, look at that. We've got mashed banana, apricots and apple. A beautiful combination, to which we're going to add half a teaspoon of cinnamon powder. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Now this cinnamon is from a shop called the Refill Jar in Beverley, and they're very good for spices. If you like different spices, they have a wall of spices and herbs, and you can get these little jars and you can fill them up with the different herbs and spices to use. It's quite fun. So we've got half a teaspoon of that lovely cinnamon, and now we're just going to add our 3 remaining ingredients. We're going to start with our butter, our melted butter. You might want to use a spoon now to scrape it out, make sure it's all gone in there, like so. Then we're going to add our Rice Krispies, snap, crackle and pop, and then our porridge oats. Oh, look at that. And then we're just going to give it a nice gentle mix with our spoon, making big circles in the bowl so it all combines together. If you have any stuck to the side of your bowl, you can use your spoon to scrape it down into the middle like this. That's it. Give it one more stir. Toss it back and forth with your spoon. Push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. So it's all combined beautifully there. Now, if you have a 20 centimetre tin, that would be perfect to put this in. Brilliant. I should have said at the beginning of the video, you want to have your oven reheated to 170 degrees C. So 170 degrees C, slightly lower than a normal cooking temperature. Now, amazingly, I do have a room full of cooking equipment, but what I don't have is a tray for flapjack. So I'm just going to make one. I've got some foil and I'm just going to roll it out to about this long. I'll measure it just to help you if you're doing this at home. So that's 30, say 40 centimetres long. And then I'm just going to cut along the 40 centimetre mark. I'll put the dimensions in the description of the video so you can do this as well. Cut it down. That's it. And then we just want to start folding. So we're going to fold the long edge 3 times inwards. So you want it approximately 2 centimetres wide, but it really doesn't need to be that specific. We just folded it in 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to do the same with the remaining sides. So the top side, fold it over 1, 2, 3. The long side, 1, 2, 3. And the final top side again, 1, 2, 3. So we currently have what looks a little bit like a frame. This would be quite fun for some art actually. You could make a picture and pop it inside your frame. But what we want to do to make our box, our tin to cook our apricot flapjack in, is now fold up the sides. So I'm just going to fold up the top sides first. And then to fold up the long sides, you need to push the corner inwards. So the corner, you might just want to have a little play around. So you lift and fold the corner inwards like that. I'll hold it up again in a moment. So each corner is folded inwards and we've made a rectangle shape. So it currently looks like that. And then you just want to flatten the corners to the sides. So you just have a happy little tin here, ready for your flapjack filling. There we go. So pop that onto a baking tray, and then you're just going to carefully spoon that lovely flapjack mixture into the tray. Oh, that looks delicious. All of that lovely apple and apricot. There we go. And then if there's any left on the spoon, just get another spoon and scrape it off. And then we just want to gently squash it down into the box we've made for it, so it fills every space. Trying to keep it as rectangular as possible. There's so much maths in cooking, you wouldn't really know it, would you? Fractions, shape, rectangles. Oh, lovely, look at that. So I'm just squashing it down with the back of my spoon to make it as flat as possible. And there we go. We have a very large lump of apricot flapjack ready to be cooked for 30 minutes in the oven. So the oven is on at 170 degrees and we want to bake this for 30 minutes. When it's finished and you take it out, you need to leave it until it's cool before you can slice it. And you could slice it into large chunks. You could slice it into finger slices. You could go for triangles. It's up to you. You are the baker. Baking, it's so much fun, isn't it? It's one of my great loves of life. Baking, sunshine, bubbles. Do you like bubbles? Here we go. They're just fun, aren't they? They're a bit of fun, bubbles. You can't go wrong with a little bit of bubble mixture. Well done, everybody. I really hope you've enjoyed Let's Bake Apricot Flapjacks. They're a really handy thing to have up your sleeve for a picnic or a nice lunch or a nice dinner or tea. Always nice to have. So well done, everybody. Thank you for joining me. If you've enjoyed watching, I do have a GoFundMe account. So if you wanted to make a small donation, that would be very much appreciated. Hope everybody's keeping safe and keeping happy and keeping well. Let's finish with the Bunny Bakers song. Little bunny bakers, we've had some fun. We've baked a lot. Now it's time to say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. See you next week for more baking fun. Bye. See you later.